This is the second of two car cameras that Vico sent over to me. This is the TF2 Plus. This is a more traditional style of camera. The other one that they sent me was that screenless one that ties up with your smartphone. This is a self-contained unit that has a traditional LCD screen on the back. Let's get inside the box and have a look what you get. Well, it's the usual combination of things. I'll just talk you through them as quickly as I can. We've got a USB A2 mini B lead. We've got a car power adapter, that's a 1 amp one, some instruction booklets nice and clear, the sticky back mount that goes on the windscreen with a ball joint type thing on there. There's also a suction cup with another one of those ball joints on the end, and then this sort of cradle, which is a quick release cradle, and then of course there's the camera itself. Let's just take a quick look around the camera. Obviously we've got the sort of front center lens here. Not much going on the bottom there. It says it's 1080p of course. In this side we've got a full-size SD card, not a micro SD. I'm using a class 10 in mine. They supplied that with mine, but I think you probably have to buy your own normally. On this side we've got a power button for turning it on and off, but obviously you don't have to use that in your car. It auto starts and stops. And then we've got these 5 buttons across the bottom here. They've got multiple functions depending on whether you're recording or in the menus. We've got an LED at the top left there. A couple of holes on the right, which are the speaker and microphone, I think. And then on the top there we've got a HDMI out on the right. We've got the mounting thing in the middle, a USB port for powering it, and an AV out socket as well. Now I'll show you how it attaches to these mounts. This is the sticky back one. This is the smallest one. It just slides in there like that and you tighten that bit up and stick it to your windscreen. Quite nice and neat, that one. Doesn't take up much room at all. And of course we've got a spare sticky pad for that top bit as well. So that's the smallest and simplest one, and then from there we've got this thing which is a cradle. It's a quick release cradle. I think the idea is that you just sort of snap the camera into it like this and leave that bit attached to your windscreen, attached to the suction cup, or you can also put it into the sticky back mount I just showed you, because you can swap that out at the where the ball joint joins up with it. The idea is of course you leave the cradle in the car, you can quickly remove the camera from there. Of course, remember you've got to unplug the wire as well, so it's not as quick as it possibly could be. Now we'll take that mount out of that and we'll just mount the other clip that we've got here straight into the ball joint and then put that into the top of the camera. This clip here slides in and clicks in place. You have to squeeze that little handle if you want to remove it. But there you go, that's your sort of 3 options for mounting it to the windscreen. I will just go outside for a second and have a look how that looks inside the car. Well, I've got it mounted at the top with the sticky back mount. You'll notice it's got a grey sticky back surface which makes it a little bit more obvious than I'd like. I've hidden it up behind the rear view mirror so I don't obstruct my view while I look out of the front. You can see it though from the passenger side. Now I'll just power the car on. You can see that the green LEDs come on, the camera's waking up, and in a second it'll start recording and the red LED will come on. Now you can have the screen blank off so it's not as obvious, not as bright at night time. Just that little red LED will show you that it's recording. So that's what the camera looks like when it's up and running, but we'll have a look at some footage from the camera now. Now I did a bit of a voiceover whilst I was driving along, so you'll better hear that as well, so I'll just be quiet now. Okay, I'm starting the first of 3 test runs and I'm going to do the same run but with different settings on the camera. The first time I'm going to go down here, I'm recording in 1080p 30 mode and I'm doing it in the wide angle mode. Now wide angle is 160 degrees and standard is 140. Now 140 is not a standard angle, it's a wide angle anyway, so I'm sure we'll be fine with 140 degrees standard, but to start off with, this is what 1080p 30 looks like in the ultra wide angle mode. Right, now for this second run we're doing 1080p 30 again, but this time I'm recording in the standard angle 140 degree mode. Now on this last run I'm recording at 720p 60. Now in 720p 60 mode there's no option to change the angle of view, the field of view. You've only got the one setting, which I think is probably the 140 degree mode, but I'm not entirely sure till I watch it back later. Now the only other thing I've done with this clip is I've turned the date stamp off. Well, at least I think I have. I set the option in the menu to turn it off, so we'll see that later on as well. Now the only other things I haven't tested are that you can alter the bit rate. You can make it high quality or low quality. I've only shot these things in high quality. And the only resolution that I haven't shot at is 720p 30, but 720p 60 will look pretty much the same, I'd imagine, on YouTube, because it'll only be displaying it at 30 frames a second. If you want to see 720p displayed at 60 frames a second, you'll have to download one of the clips on my blog, which I'll put up. You can download them there. I'll also put some other resolutions up as well, and a few different scenarios, just so you can see what they look like in real life, because of course on YouTube they get re-encoded and don't look as good as the original clips did. Now I really hope the quality of this footage is coming across on YouTube, because it's absolutely outstanding. I mean, it's some of the best quality 1080p footage I've shot with any camera, whether it's an action camera or a car camera. It's really good, sharp, clear quality, this one. The trouble is I didn't really have any nice bright sunny days while I was using the camera, so I've never been able to show you any footage like that. All I've got is these overcast days and some rainy ones and some dark conditions. However, those are the times when most car cameras would have a little bit of a problem. Sometimes they get a little bit grainy or dark or murky, hard to make out. This camera really makes everything lovely and sharp. In fact, the weather looks better on this camera than it was in real life. Now, one thing it's got on it is an HDR mode. That means at night time it brings up as much light as it can in any scene, and it's something to behold. So I'll show you some of that footage now, and this is quite extraordinary stuff, really. It really makes everything look like a, I don't know, it's sort of like a special effect, really. I mean, if you've got an HDR mode on your compact camera or on your SLR, or you've ever messed around with HDR, you'll know what it is. It's the high dynamic range. What it does is it gets all the detail out of the shadows, and it also combines it with any kind of bright spots and makes the best possible image it can from all the different things it can see. And that's what you want in a car camera, really. You're driving around at night time, you've got street lights, you've got car lights coming towards you, but then you've got things that are very dark, and this just pulls all the light out of the scene and makes things look really nice. It's a beautiful quality image, really. I've never seen a better nighttime image than this in any camera. Now, this is the most recent firmware that they supply me with. This video was delayed a little bit while I waited for the firmware update, which takes a lot of the settings out of the user's control and just puts HDR on automatically, which is what you want. You don't want to be fiddling around, and the camera does it all for you, and it does a fine job. So I'm glad I don't have to mess around with any settings, because it seems to know exactly what it's doing. Now, as far as gaps between clips, obviously there aren't any gaps. I'm going to show you what it looks like now. This is clip 1 that you're looking at. In a second it's going to flip over to clip 2. There it is. There was no gap between those, but there was on my hard drive. There were 2 separate files, but obviously no gap between them in the video, even one frame or anything missing there. It's completely seamless. Let me give you a couple of examples of things that you might have to use in an accident. Here's something now. This yellow car on the right just came through a red light there. Not the crime of the century perhaps, but if it had crashed into you, maybe it would have been. So let's just have a look. Pause it there. You can see the traffic light at the top. There's a red glow inside the traffic light there. That's when it went red, just as he was behind the white line there, and then he came through afterwards. And of course, if you freeze frame it, you can get a nice clear shot of the number plate. That's the kind of thing you want to be able to do with a car camera if you had an accident. Here's another scenario. Just look on the right here. There you go. There's a motorcyclist coming past. Bit of a maniac, that guy, because this is a 30-mile-an-hour zone, and obviously that's not 30, is it? I wasn't too concerned about him overtaking me. It was the next thing he did. It was this bit down here. He's going around a blind bend on the wrong side of the road at about 60 miles an hour. Anything comes the other way, there's going to be a bit of an issue there. Luckily, he got away with it. More unlucky, I suppose. It was only 3 cars forward at the next set of traffic lights, so really worth risking your life for that one, wasn't it? Excellent choice there. Anyway, let's have a look at the menus on the camera. This camera is very simply laid out. Everything's nice and easy to use and very clear. There's hardly a point me going through these, but I will do anyway. It only takes a minute or so. There's not too much to choose from. You can see the resolutions there on the screen. Those are your 3 choices that you can pick from. And then next one down, you'd set the clock, and that would format the card, and that would mess around with the exposure. You don't have to bother, it's all automatic. G-sensor is the thing that if it receives a knock, it will store a file, lock it on the card. You've got 5 different settings for that. For the severity of the knock, I leave it switched off, but that's my preference. Your view angle in 1080p, you've got a choice of wide angle or standard, as I mentioned earlier on. In 720p, it doesn't have a choice of angles. It's probably 160 degrees automatically. That's how long it is before the camera auto shuts off the LCD, or you can have it on permanently. That's the tag that you can have on the bottom of the footage. You saw it on mine saying that. You can put your own registration number on or whatever you wanted. Useful if you had a fleet of these out on the road, so that you know whose video belonged to which footage, or you know what I mean. Quality, standard or highest. Those are your 2 bit rates that you can set, so you might as well leave it on high. There's quite a lot of languages in this one, as you can see here. I'm not going to talk you through them all, but if you spot any you prefer, they're probably here. So there you go. Look at that, all those. Brilliant. And over the page, image inverse. You can make the image flip upside down if you have the camera upside down, but you can also have a mirror image if you really wanted to. Auto recording, the camera auto starts and stops when it receives power, but you could switch that off if you wanted. Audio record, that's whether you want sound on the clips, of course, or not. Again, your own preference. Volume control, that's for the beep sounds in the camera. Time, whether you want the time displayed. Actually, this is a different one. It's whether you want the time displayed or the recording counting displayed. Not too sure about that. I didn't really mess around with it too much, but either way, it's there. You can have the date stamp on or off. TV system, PAL, NTSC, that's for your output really. That's the version of the firmware I was using, and that's pretty much it. So that's everything in the menus. Not really an awful lot going on there. The other things you've got, that red button at the bottom, if you press that, it will store 30 seconds before and after that clip as a file that can't be recorded. Press the mute, you can mute it at the top there. Press the photo, you can take a still photo of whatever's being recorded at the moment. And of course the playback mode lets you play back clips you've recorded earlier on. They include the sound and you can pause and fast forward them, all the kind of usual stuff. I'm not going to plug this camera into my TV using that HDMI out port because frankly it'll just look like this but larger. So that's pretty much it, but I'll just go through a couple of things that people always ask. The video is recorded in 5-minute segments. That you can't change that, it's 5 minutes. They're seamless, as I mentioned before. It records in MOV file format, 5 minutes of MOV at 1080p 30 is 490 megs. The bit rate in the high mode is about 13 to 14 megabits a second. Bit rate in 720p 60 is 7 megabits a second. As with every dashcam, it auto starts and stops when you receive power or turn it off. It auto records over the oldest footage when the card is full. If any of this is confusing to you, watch my beginner's guide to car cameras video. It's in my channel and it explains basic stuff like this about all car cameras. So the big positive things that stick out for me about this camera are that it's got that excellent video quality in all situations and decent sound as well, as you'll have heard. It's very easy to use, it's got multiple mounting options in the box. It doesn't have a battery. Now why is that positive? Well, if you have a battery in something that's always powered, always charging, it's going to wear down sooner or later. It's one more thing to break. So if you don't have a battery in it, it's going to be more reliable. However, on the negative side, the camera itself is a bit difficult to hide. It's got that LCD screen on the back, makes it a certain size, difficult to hide away. It needs 1 amp to power it. Now, of course, it comes with the right power supply, but if you plan on using a USB splitter, make sure you're using enough power. The fact it hasn't got a battery means you can't take it out of the car and take photos with it. You can't use motion detection or any of that kind of stuff. And then of course we've got the price. Now I don't think that this has a bad price, but I know a lot of people don't like spending over £100, and this does cost over £100. In fact, at the moment on eBay the price is about £130, $210 US, 155 euros, or 37,883 Djiboutian francs. Now, whether that's a lot of money to you is for you to decide. I don't think it's bad value for money given the quality of the camera. If you do fancy buying one, there's links to buy in the video description. If you need a little bit more time to think about it, maybe go to my blog, download some of those samples so you can see the real quality that comes out of this camera, not the YouTube version. But that's it. For the moment, thanks for watching. I'm really not sure about these intro and outro clips though. Maybe I need to have another look at those. Anyway, that's it. For the moment, thanks for watching.